because I really know that anybody can be your soulmate, because everybody is your soulmate. There's only one soul. There's only one spirit, and I'm kind of using soul and spirit interchangeably there. But for what it is that she's asking what to cast for, you know, there's this process called the love list. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. This one was on Oprah a couple of years ago, and I caught it on a rerun, where she talks about this love list to write down 100 things that you want in a partner. And she speaks about different rings within that process. That the first ring is usually about must be tall, must like dogs, must make this much amount of money, you know, all of the physical things, have a nice body, this color eyes. That stuff is really not ultimately that important, but it's where we all start. Then you get into that second ring, where you start looking at healthy boundaries, someone who understands boundaries, someone who is not just respectful of me, but of themselves, somebody who is willing to learn, someone who can teach me things, someone that I can enjoy my life with, someone that I can share my, and you see, well, I'm doing this with my hands, it gets more and more focused, deeper and deeper and deeper, as you move past the personality's desires into the soul's needs. Someone that will help me endure the lessons and mysteries of my life.
Sounds like a dartboard.
It is, and you're shooting for that bullseye. Now, does that mean that you have to do one spell to cover all of that? No. But I think you need to really redefine your meaning of the word soulmate, twin flame, life partner, where when I cast for relationships in this particular area, I'm very clear. Because, by the way, it's a story I told this week, but it is a true story. I remember sitting on the couch with my first husband, also named Mark.
Eminem.
Nothing more narcissistic than marrying somebody with your own first name. And it was towards the end of our relationship. I knew it was coming. I was miserable. And we considered each other soulmates. That was the term that was applied to us from other people. Oh, Mark and Mark, you're soulmates. Oh, you're perfect mirrors of each other, except I'm a Virgo. He's Pisces. Total opposites of each other. There was a lot of karma involved there and a lot of learning to be had. And I remember sitting on the couch at one point with us not really talking to each other, not overtly not talking to each other, but this uncomfortable silence. And I remember thinking, I never cast for it, but I remember thinking, man, I really want someone in my life that shares my spiritual path and process that I can teach and travel with and build something with. And I got Amy. I mean, out of my first marriage came my relationship with Amy, and the funny thing is she was on the scene before he took off, before we broke up. So there was a refining process that came from having really my fondest heart's desire manifested, and I will say this about my first marriage. He was everything I ever wanted in a guy, in a partner, in a lover, in a husband. For 22, for being 22, but by the time I was 27, which is pretty much around the time I said, both said enough is enough, we were moving in different directions. My soul wanted more. And not that there was anything wrong with what we had, it's just we grew past it. And then Amy showed up.
Together.
We evolved, but we evolved in different directions.
No, that's what I mean. We didn't evolve together.
In the same, and we did. For 5 or 6 years, we were really, I mean, we hardly ever fought. Really, from the outside looking in, we had an ideal relationship, except we were both kids. You know, we were both in our 20s. We had goals that suddenly arose. It wasn't like we knew all of our goals at the beginning of the relationship. So I think something to weave into a spell there is that we be together the appropriate amount of time. And that to say forever and ever and ever is like chaining yourself to someone. And honey, till symbolic death do us part. And that's why I'm not really a huge believer in till death do us part. Because I rarely see it, number one. Remember, I'm raised by a divorce lawyer, so that's like a regular, I see people breaking up left, right, and center, whether there's a marriage agreement, a legal or binding agreement or not. I think that the best that you can hope for is a friend, a companion along the way, and whether that moves itself into marriage, sexuality, and intimacy is really, again, more the caboose than the engine. I think if you're going to look at what is your motivation for a soulmate, you have to look at, am I looking for a means or an end, which we've talked about ad nauseum in these podcasts, that if the caboose is, yes, I want someone that I'm comfortable with, that we can have a good time with, and then the engine is about learning, healing, growth, respect, evolution, that of course our needs and desires are going to change as we grow. That's someone that if we're not walking the same path, that we're parallel. And that it'd be appropriate to our growth, that if there needs to be a growing apart, let there be a healthy growing apart, that if it then needs to grow back together, it grows back together. I mean, you could say you and I are soulmates to a certain extent in a context, that we are of singular purpose with doing this work. And there, I think it was fated, particularly because I think how we met was very fated, because we did not meet to do this work. We met through, in a way, coincidence, or at least through synchronistic. We bumped into each other, and there was that, oh, hi, there you are. Was wondering when we were going to meet, and then when we first met, was there any idea that we were going to work together on this level? Not when we first met. It took a few years for us to really get to know each other, and then it spontaneously grew. And who knows? I mean, who knows where these things are going to take us? They could take us in totally different directions. But I would think then the healthy thing to cast for, if we were going to do a spell for a relationship, which I don't think is necessary, that it would be that we have the freedom and the love between us to allow.
Right.
The law of allowance, that we are able to have the law of allowance, that should all of a sudden we become billionaires overnight, that we still maintain the integrity of our friendship and our work, that all of a sudden we don't start doing, I don't know, reality show magic, Price is Right magic, nothing wrong with it. Not that there's anything wrong with it. So I think that's a pretty fair answer to that question. But again, I really want to stress, be careful of that word soulmate. And the idea that you only have one per life is, I think, torturous, and based on the illusion of separation and specialness, that just is the road to hell.
We hope that answered your question, Ashley. Thanks for asking.
Thank you, honey.